I am so stoked on God right now. I mean, there is a power for you to create any life that you imagine through the power of God. A lot of people call this manifestation. A lot of people call this the law of attraction, but it's God. There is a secret life of God that exists within you that most people will never even recognize, right? Think about this. How many celebrities, famous people have you seen talk about God and praise God? Why are they talking about it? I mean, Denzel Washington always talks about praying. Matthew McConaughey talks about faith all the time. Mark Wahlberg's super into freaking God stuff. There's endless celebrities that talk about this. Why? Because there is a secret power inside of you to create your entire reality that will work better than any book you've read on marketing, business, sales, whatever. And that's been my story with it. I mean, if you don't already know me and my story on spirituality, my parents held me underwater till I became Christian. That's just how I was kind of bored. And when I was like in high school, I spat it all out like any other kid. I wanted to go on my own adventure, right? Long story short, I end up stumbling upon this idea of getting rich at a young age. I'm like, this is it. This is what would make life super freaking awesome, right? I had a really terrible early 20s and I wanted to make my later 20s worth it. So I was like, if I could become the young millionaire supercar guy, balling out of control, that would make for my later 20s to be freaking epic. So I went on this mission. And as I went on this mission, there was a lot of little things, right? I read all the business books. I hit the glass ceiling. And then I read all the subconscious mind books. And then life just started to fall apart on their own. And as I went towards rock bottom and in other key little moments, there was these little moments of this weird God spirituality thing. Like, what was that? Like, I would find $20 on the floor when I was out of food. I would just get a text return when I desperately needed it the most. When I'm driving a scooter and traffic is flying by me because I don't have a car anymore, I feel like there's this bubble that's protecting me like I'm on this mission. Weird little moments. But what really pivoted for me was at the bottom. The last book I read was Conversations with God. It was a story about being able to talk to God and understand the creative power within you that changed it all for me and pivoted to guiding me onto this new path where suddenly, instead of wanting to become rich, I accepted this new version of me that was rich. I was just trapped in this broke guy's body, and the bridge began to appear. That's what they talk about. When you begin to visualize yourself and imagine yourself as that person, releasing where you are physically, going in psychologically to this new world, living in it, not just thinking about it, but living in it and from it, then going back, that is when you're beginning to be pulled to the next direction. And that is when things begin to happen. The people who don't get it will think that you're lucky. The people who don't get it will think that it's a coincidence, but you are in control. God is not this outside force. It can show up as a burning bush, and it's decided to show up as you, your spirit. That's what it's made out of. It's made out of this piece of God. What do you think it is? After you leave your body and you die, your spirit goes on. It came here when you arrived. Your spirit goes on. You are not a meat suit. You are a spirit. At the end of the day, you're a spiritual being, having a human experience. And what spirituality is it's God, and it's the God of creation. And that's you, which means you have God within you and you have God's creative powers. And through this piece of visualization, I go on this win streak, bro. The universe begins to fall in alignment into my lap. I get the perfect little starter job as a media buyer. I start this little mastermind crew. I get the perfect little friends that help teach me and guide me. I find a little winning campaign. I meet the mentors. I show them my campaign. They fly me out to go sleep on their couch in Florida and Hermosa Beach, and my life explodes. And we crack this thing on Facebook, and my life begins to take off. And next thing I know it, I'm balling out of control with making $50,000 every 2 weeks, my feet in the sand in the Caribbean. What was that? That was magical. That was insane. That was unbelievable. I go on this 3-month win streak, and I'm just starting to catch this idea of spirituality, of what's going on here. How is it the last book I read was Conversations with God? I'll never forget that. It'll always be what I come back to. Now, I need to go deeper into what works, I begin thinking. And you know what? One day, 3 months after I go on the first win streak of my life, I'm like, wow, remember when life used to be hard? I actually missed life when it was hard for a second. I wish I could go back and experience that. The next day, God was like, oh, really? Well, Boom, he bans all my Facebook accounts. The next day, everything that I had just goes to shit and goes straight to zero. Like God was like, you disrespect what I have given you. I don't play those games anymore. I don't talk about those games. But again, another little miracle of an idea comes through, right? And as I go on this journey of discovering VSLs and mastering it and continuing to pursue this path of becoming this young supercar millionaire guy, right? As I achieve it, then I go on to do this skincare brand. There's a big run. There was a little bit of spiritual training I did between that. I go all the way up. I do $0 to $40 million in my first year. This is something amazing is about to happen story that really kind of pivoted it. And by then I was so sold on God. After I exited this company, I went to go take ayahuasca so I could talk to God. And when I was there, I committed my life to God. I was like, this is it. Because think about this. Before, I was so against the God shit because I was convinced that God was going to make me some dull, stupid church boy who was doing nothing with his life but helping the church and volunteering on the stupidest, smallest things, which I'm down to do in the future. But I could not see the future that God actually had for me. I was so mistaken. I was so wrong with what the bigger power is. And as I began to evolve and go through it and learn how to have conversation with God, I discovered God's plan is way bigger than any plan I could ever imagine on my own. It's 11 out of 10. It's better than I could ever imagine. You should be focused on how you should have the dopest life possible all the way 360 around. And what I landed on was God's plan was it. So when I went to go take ayahuasca, I was like, I'm going to go commit my life to you, God. I want to work on your plan. Your plan is way better than my plan. So I committed my life to God. And the next day, God sent me straight to hell, right? She turned me into a freaking warrior for God, committing to his path, and then she sends me straight to hell. What I mean is that my crypto portfolio, with all the money that I made from my skincare brand exit, took 95% dip. It's not that day, but it took like a 70% dip that day, catastrophic, from like $6 million all the way down to like $1 million. And then I wrote it all the way down to like 300 grand, a massive 95% catastrophic loss because of the degenerate activities. But it was almost as if God was like, thanks for committing your life to me. Let's go to hell. That's the first place you have to go to, is to go to hell right now and begin training. And as I'm living in Stockholm, Sweden, I had sold my cars, sold everything that I had. I was living in a hotel, getting wrecked by the day, feeling catastrophically destroyed. I began to realize manifesting was the only way out of this. And I would go to the park in Stockholm, look up in the sky and talk to God again. Like, I have to have a conversation with you. My life just got fucked, right? What's going on? You and I both know I can do way more with my life when we're absolutely balling out of control, super rich. What is the deal right now? Why did you send me to the grave to be destroyed? And God's like, you're fine. I'm like, are we going to do this or not? And God's like, you're fine. You can have conversations with God back and forth. This was never taught to me when I went to all these Christian schools. This book showed me how to do it very specifically, just by, it's an old man talking to God all the way through this thing. And he's just spitting super wisdom that I just know is truth. And you can talk to God and ask him these questions. And I get this answer, like, you're all good, right? And then I have to have faith. You have to believe in this future. You have to envision this future where it's coming through. And I'm like, what's the one thing I can manifest to get myself out of this? Oh, it's a business partner who's a mentor. And I begin tuning into the energy. What is the energy of meeting a business partner that is your mentor at the same time? And it's just this stokedness. It's this aliveness. It's this adventure, right? It's like discovering this new purpose for your life, and you're just awakened and alive. And even though my life was being burned alive, like the fire was around me, I had to find a way to feel awakened and alive and align with that energy. And then I meet the mentor, right? 2.5 weeks later, on a boat floating through Croatia for a trip at this community of people called Saga, I meet Vishen Lakiani. He's the founder of Mindvalley. He's on the boat with me for 5 days. We end up becoming friends. I end up deciding, hey, bro, I'm sick of sleeping in hotels. I'm going to sleep at your house. Where do you live? He lives in Estonia. Cool. I fly out there. Next thing I know, it's VSL paradise. I'm in VSL paradise. This company was burning so much money every single day when I first got there because the webinar stopped working at the iOS 14. And I was like, yeah, VSLs could fix that. They had everything I needed. They had the world-class video production. They had all of the authority figures. They had true gangster-ass stories, and they had a little media buying team that had experience at scaling. I was like, bro, let me run this shit. I ran that shit. I partnered with them. I got equity in the company. I put together a commission only percentage of revenue deal, and that shit exploded, bro. After 6 months, it exploded. It was a hardcore white knuckling grind to get to the point where this shit was going to boom. And during that time, I learned the reason that I lost all the money was because if I had the money, I would have given up on making Mind Valley work. It was too challenging. It was so much white knuckling grinding, 14-hour days for 6 months in a row that's what it took. I would have gave up. I have all the money. It was the truth, right? So after Mind Valley explodes and I get this exit, right? I get this equity exit that kickstarts my life again, right? I'm back living in a ball-ass place. I'm back. I got a new upgraded Lamborghini Aventador, right? Super gangster whole lifestyle, just kick back in. I start the training, and then I'm just so hooked on this again. I'm like, I have got to get the word out that God is real, and the best way for you to live your life is to tap into the spirituality side, because what it really is, it's the law of creation, right? It's your power to create using your imagination and your faith and your desire. It's the core root of all that you create in life. It comes straight out of your consciousness. That's where it comes from. And that is the more important than anything else you could be studying, is understanding how your consciousness can create your reality. And I'm like, I don't want to just talk about this. I want to prove it. Is this really going to work? And I decided to put it to the test. What's the one thing that I could create in my life that will prove without a shadow of doubt that this God shit is real, right? And I'm like, you know what it could be? A unicorn. Let's manifest a unicorn. Let's turn myself into a billionaire unicorn owner, AI billionaire, 10-figure entrepreneur, just for the sheer shits and giggles of it. Because at the end of the day, I don't think any amount of money makes any difference at all. It's just the idea. Your idea and your vision is what produces the results. All I have to do is tune into the energy of $1 billion idea of becoming an AI billionaire, and I will manifest the way. And that's what we were holding down. It started with VSL.ai, and then I got to download to pivot to Genius.ai. And then I got into building AI for organic business owners like network marketers and other business owners who rely on free traffic like Instagram and Facebook and TikTok to be able to build their brand and get out there. And this shit is freaking epic. The product we're building is unbelievably epic. I'm super proud of it. But the moral is, right? Because I tuned in again to God, why? Because I forgot about the why, the whole thing. I was like, why, God, why am I doing, why are you making me a billionaire? Why did you put me on this path? And I was like, oh, so you could write the story down. Something amazing is about to happen being worked on. And I could get it in the hands of people like you, because spirituality is so freaking crazy sounding that you need a story that captures the essence, the belief, right? I had 10-year adventure. It's coming on me to develop this much certainty around the power of your spiritual self and your power to create, right? And your responsibility that everything around you've created, accepting that responsibility. If you don't believe you can do it, you'll never tap into you can do it. And then you'll look at the people who do it as if they're lucky or whatever. There is another force out there, and you got to get into it. You got to get into it more. If you want me to break down your life, right? Before this book is created, and I'm working on another program right now to get this out there, I am taking one-on-one calls with you, right? I'm still coming up with exactly how I want to do this. It's flexible. But what I do know is I want to do one-on-one calls with people. I know there's people out there with more money than they have time to read all these freaking books, and they want someone like me to review their life and take a look at what they got going on and help them create that vision, point them in the right direction. And that's what I want to do. So if you want to do that, DM me. Not cheap, but it is effective, right? It's not cheap, but it is designed to get you where you want to be, especially if you have a 7-figure business and above, right? You need the most fraction idea to come bounce in your head for you to ball out of control. And in order to get that idea, you need to tune into that idea. And if you want to figure out how to tune in that idea on your own, just shoot me a DM and let's do that. Anyway, God's plan is so freaking dope for you, man. Get into it. This ain't religion. Religion is the box people try to put on your relationship with God. I'm talking about your relationship with God, spirituality, inside and without. Some people will try to think it's outside of you and you want to bring God in, but don't get so close to God that you guys merge together, because that's way too close. You're definitely not God. You are a sinner. You're bad, evil person. You need God because you're evil. You aren't God, right? This is what I like about this religion that I'm in, this spirituality thing that I'm in. I'm not in a religion. I'm into spirituality, which is I am God. I have the power to create. God's given me the power to be responsible for everything in my life, and I must live in the end as the feeling, ignore what's around me, and begin to produce. That will begin to produce the fruits that'll take it to the next level. I'm going deep on this shit, guys. So stoked for you. Thanks for taking it in. Let's get on the spirituality train. Peace.